The Google Plus platform was, at first I was kind of resistant to it because I guess I'm used to other social media kind of platforms like Facebook or Twitter. And so it wasn't as user friendly as I was hoping to begin with. But, after some acclimation to the platform, it became a lot easier to use. And by the end of the semester, felt like any other piece of software.
I really like Google Drive, and I'll be using it for more stuff now that I'm comfortable with it as an interface. The Google Group was a lot more comfortable and seemed a lot more, um, just a lot easier to use and a lot more like a conversation instead of a homework assignment.
The power or the strength of the community is the way that you can bring elements outside of the class into the class, um, and apply whatever things you're learning to those elements. So
I think the advantage was that you stay engaged throughout the course of the week as opposed to just the 1 week, one time a week kind of setup. So I think there were some advantages. If we're specifically comparing it to Scholar, again, the access and the sharing of information is constant and consistent. So, as far as new articles that you would post and everybody else would also post, I think there was some advantages there as far as fluidity of the class material. The advantage to the Google platform is that the interface is quite different. So things like just throwing up an article and things like that, and then you have little icons and pictures. You can throw up a variety of different media, and I think that is more interesting for the user. I have to say, thankfully, it was the only Google platform class because I think that if all classes had this platform, I think it would be, frankly speaking, a little bit overwhelming. I mean, if all my classes were structured in that way, um, I'm sure you could probably get used to it. But from the outside looking in, from a first cut, I could see it getting overwhelming a little bit.
I think one of the huge problems with trying to have a classroom that also blogs is that what happens in the classroom is so separated from what's going on in the platform that you don't get any kind of real, continuous, seamless discussion. Um, but in terms of Google Plus, it was different. At first, if you look at our posts, they're very formal, they're very rigid and kind of uptight. It's like we were writing our own little papers, like our first post. But then I think as the semester grew on, we kind of became more comfortable just sharing stuff that we came across, and it became much more organic. Honestly, I got a lot more out of this class than I think I would have if it was just give us the textbook and read the chapter and then have a discussion during class. The textbook and kind of the lecture in class characterized formal learning, and then everything outside of that was kind of applications of the learning. So the articles that I would find or that you would share with us from like Economist or Huffington Post or wherever, the posts online, um, and then also the kind of the second part of class when we had the discussions about what kind of new content was shared onto Google Plus. That would be kind of the informal or application of what we took in class.
The Google Plus community really allows for a continuous learning environment.
I think the biggest extension in learning in this as opposed to other classes was that it was so continuous and that we had the Google group to be on throughout the week and to be looking around and sharing other resources.
I felt that it was useful because our generation engages a lot more online, so it gave me a space where I could engage with these ideas in like this Web 3.0 platform was very interesting. So
So the feedback was awesome. I really loved that, especially when it came to trying to figure out what it is that you were talking about. Uh, you can just zoom in and then point to a specific spot on my paper and highlight it, and I can know exactly what you're talking about.
It allowed for almost like having a professor online that could continuously come and update videos on on what he was really thinking. In text, it doesn't allow for emotion and for context, but the video allows for such things so that you understand more thoroughly and more accurately where the professor is going.
The feedback ones helped a lot too, because it eliminated the quandary of occasionally illegible handwriting for feedback on assignments, and that really helped to hear it spoken. Because, and this is a problem that you find all over the internet as well, is handwritings, that you can't communicate tone of voice and you can't communicate inflection and in text and just in text. So I think that it just makes it a closer communication and you retain more meaning.
As far as the instructor feedback, the ones that you did, I actually liked it because it adds a bit more of a personal element to the interaction, and it obviously doesn't have to happen in the classroom setup. So it felt as if you were, I suppose you were, but you're speaking directly to me, and at that point in time, the feedback seemed to register a little bit better, I think, personally.
In terms of like the readings, summarizing the readings for future classes, that was also really, really helpful because it kind of gave us a better idea of what it is that you wanted us to get out of the readings.
On older systems such as Scholar and other systems, even in the classroom, the professor assigns you something, and oftentimes I see myself wondering, why are we reading this? What does this have to do with the scope of our class? I don't see any of this information on the syllabus and where it connects, but allowing the videos allows for us to understand where the professor is going with it, and it just really helps open up the reading, and it really allows us to just really to get more out of it, and to allow the professor to direct the class and for us to follow where he's trying to lead us. The ones that I watched, I watched them all the way through because I wanted to see what was going on, where the professor was going with it. Some of them I did cut short once I figured it out, but
I liked having the summary of the reading videos in case if some of them went up late on a Sunday night or on a Sunday evening, and there was one that I hadn't gotten to, then I could go on Monday morning before coming to class and say, okay, just so I'm aware of everything that was up there that I maybe didn't get to, I can watch this and maybe skim it in the first 5 minutes of class of the supplementals that I might have missed. So I thought those were really, really helpful.
I think that most of the students in the class really enjoyed hearing what kind of like a brief synopsis of what everything was talking about, so that they could, this sounds bad, but so that they could kind of focus on the readings that were the most interesting to them, and spend more time on those.
Considering the breadth, the scope of the material and everything, I think that any kind of guidance as far as how we should approach it and what we should look for and focus on, that's appreciated, and it helps kind of even the reading process. And again, I think, just that it's the closest thing to one-to-one interaction, and the fact that it's kind of almost a dialogue was interesting to me. That's something that I hadn't experienced in a previous class.
In terms of me uploading stuff to the website, I actually recorded my 2-minute video about 6 times before I actually hit OK and uploaded it, because I would trip up, or I'd have what I wanted to say and then I would screw it up. So it was a little bit more difficult, but I liked it, and I think if I got used to it, then it could have definitely been a cool part of the class.
Personally, I'm not a huge fan of filming myself. I feel like I'm talking to myself, so to speak. So, I would enjoy it more when there's somebody else on the other end of the line, so to speak. Just specifically filming myself and the feedback. It's just personal preference. would be probably more inclined to write something than watch myself on camera filming myself.
What do you think about the idea of having the community go on forever, and just you come back in 10 years and it's still
That would be awesome, you know.
Yeah.
And I could say I was like the pioneer of the
Right.
I was the original gangsta. No, I mean, I think it would be a real shame if the platform just went away, because we've shared a lot of really cool stuff and people have talked about a lot of really cool stuff. And I think this sounds really cheesy, but sustainable development is kind of a continuous thing, and it's going to become even more important in the future. And so watching the Google Plus platform evolve as, you know, kind of the debate going on in real life evolves as well would be really, really cool.
I think it would have been about the same, just because I think that all of the students and everyone in our general peer group is kind of used to the idea that anything you put on the internet may be varying degrees of public at some point or another. So there is just an already inset idea of, well, don't say anything that you wouldn't want shared with whatever relevant group it is. And
I felt that Google Drive was always kind of its own separate thing from everything else, and maybe that's how it's supposed to work. I don't know if there'd be a way to, I guess, tie Google Drive into Google Plus and whatever else we were doing. It was kind of like its own little Dropbox. Like we just kind of dumped papers there and dumped assignments there, but there was no way that we really kind of tied it into Google Plus at all. And I don't know if there is a way to do that or if it ever could be that, but that would be cool to see that. So maybe having like somebody's profile on Google Plus, you can click there and then they could have like a public Google Drive and you could see what kind of stuff that they've gathered for their own research as a way to share ideas or anything like that. Fun class. I wish I could have some of those Google classes though. I'd like to wear them.
Hands off. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I think we pretty much covered everything. Is there anything else on there that
Just anything else that you'd like to say?
yeah. Is there is there anything else that
Yeah, I think this being the first attempt at it, it definitely showed where there's a lot of potential for growth. I think the Google Plus community could be used a lot more as an ongoing debate and for allowing students to contribute to the learning experience.
I think it was fun.
here? And that's the hope of this seminar, is that it goes everywhere by design. And then as we go, we try to keep a consistent storyline framework running throughout. Like, okay, what about this? What about this? You know, the same questions you can ask in all these different universes of knowledge, and you end up beginning to see connections. And once you make the connections, then you begin to learn something. I think that's the challenge, and that's what I've been trying to figure out how to do, you know, myself, and then try and get other people in the same zone. Okay, well, thanks for your time. Appreciate you dropping by.